besides chucks, there's also collets. This collet here is an expansion collet. It's designed to go into a approximately 1 3/8 opening in the base of something, small and light, and then expand to hold. These are very nice for light work, treenware, small bowls. I certainly wouldn't want to use that little gripping surface on anything large.
You get those from Beal? What's your favorites?
I'm not sure where I got this one from. It's been too long.
Will you post on Facebook some of your suppliers that you...
I sure will.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to post on Facebook some of my sources.
Okay. Jamie?
Yes.
Penn State carries that top collar.
It might be from Penn State because I don't remember buying it from Beal.
So George?
There's,
So I have one of those, and I didn't know what it was. I got a bunch of things from people, and so is that for like spindle work?
no,
Question?
she wants to know what this would be used for. And I would use it for turning small bowls.
You mean like 3 inches in diameter?
Yes, because there's not a lot of gripping surface here.
It's good for making little compact mirrors too.
Compact mirror mounts, I've got some other things for compact mirror mounts that I'll show here in a minute. But just small things, because it's not got a lot of grip surface and I wouldn't trust it for like a 6-inch bowl, because that's only 1 3/8 inches.
Christmas ornaments?
Christmas ornaments, this is 2 inches. Now, a machinist collet is actually also useful for us. This is a standard machinist collet system, fits on the lathe, available from a number of sources, Penn State, Craft Supply, Beal. And these are really good for any time you're turning something that is on, say, a dowel shaft. Because let's say it's a 1/4-inch dowel, you get out the 1/4-inch collet, it's got around a 1/64 of an inch of give in it. But it'll grip that and it'll grip it tight. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to put this on here, set your up to blinding speed, because, well, that wood's going to start whipping. And pretty soon, that little dowel isn't going to be there anymore, and it's going to be flying across the masking house. Now, there's one of George's favorite things here, pin chucks. These work a little bit different. These you can use for something like spindle turning. What it is there's a flat spot here on this, and I put a pin right here, and I slide whatever I'm turning over it, and it's just tight fit. And it's loose right now, but as soon as this starts spinning, the centrifugal force is going to push that pin between the opening and the flat spot and hold it in place. And very useful for, again, smaller objects. And I just lost one of my pins. There it is. Right there, Jamie.
Charge him double, Jamie.
Charge it double.
Put that, Ellen. It's okay.
But this shows a smaller with the pin in it. And you can just barely see as I'm rotating the pin not shining and the flat metal shining. So as this spins, the pin would swing over to one side and jam up against the hole.
Ralph?
Yes.
The permanent magnet, the second magnet.
Well, this one is magnetized.
Flush with the flat surface.
Yeah.
The hold your pin.
John says put a permanent magnet on it to help hold the pin in place.
Sorenberger used to make them, and he put a magnet in them.
Yeah. He says Sorenberger used to make them that way.
Yes.
Now, that's a one-time deal, each thing you turn, you can't put something back on and get it centered.
Oh, no. He says you can't put it back on. There's a lot of things in wood turning that once you take it off and put it back on, it's not going to be in the same place, and that's one of them. Now, just a minute ago, George was talking about compact mirrors. Well, there's another way to make little bits of wood for things like compact mirrors, and that's these mandrels. I can glue a piece of wood to this mandrel, turn it, and make a nice little domed thing for the wooden sides for compacts, or the back side for a small mirror. And they come in a number of different sizes, from 1 inch up to about 2 1/4. I bought these from Penn State. Oh, we'll leave this in here because this is a fun little thing. This is an expanding rubber drum. Let's say I'm making a goblet, and I've hollowed out the inside of the goblet, and I've now turned it around, and I can expand this into the inside of the goblet while I turn the outside. This being rubber is not going to badly mar the inside. Notice I said badly mar. It will leave a little bit of rubber, but you haven't gotten it to finish yet. I find this is very useful also on pepper mills. When I'm machining pepper mills, these are again available in a lot of sizes, and you'll find in the Penn State catalog that they specify use the 1 inch, use the 1 1/4 inch, use the 3/4. They're very useful for that sort of thing, for giving you support on the inside while you're turning the outside.
The same thing that's sold as a sanding drum, the little collars go on them?
About the same, but not quite.
Yeah. Larry wanted to know if they were the same thing, and they aren't quite the same thing. They're slightly different thing, but they're still rather useful.
Well, Penn State sells a kit that you get the little expandable drums and the Forstner bit for it.
Oh, okay.
It comes as a little kit.
Yeah, George says that Penn State sells the drums with matching Forstner bits. I have a full set of Forstner bits in 16-inch increments, so I didn't pay attention to that.
It was shiny, I wanted.
It was shiny. Truism. No matter how much your lathe costs, you will spend more on the tools and accessories for it. Even though we have about $4,000 in lathes right now, we have spent more on the tools and accessories.
Do you agree with that, Ella?
Yes, dear.
The joys of having 2 woodworkers in the house is you have to buy 2 of everything.
Yeah.
We're going to go back just briefly to talking about between centers and talk a little bit about turning pens. You see 2 pen mandrels here. That's because they're different sizes. Depending on which company you buy from, they're either A size or B size. They both call them 1/4 inch, but they're not. This size is used by Craft Supplies, Penn State, and several others. This one is used by Hutt and a couple of others. I have this one just for some Hutt pens I used to make that they discontinued. Made me grumpy. They discontinued them because their supplier for the laurel wreath bands change their minimum order from 1,000 to 100,000. And they couldn't sell 100,000 in a lifetime, and, well, I probably couldn't sell 100,000 pens in a lifetime either. Now, both of those pen mandrel systems are designed to set into the live center of your standard live center. They have a little pin right here, little hole, they fit right into that pin. There is an option though, and I really like this option. This is a pen mandrel live center. I use it a lot. Anymore, I use it all the time when I'm turning pens rather than the nut and bolt system.
And the crochet hooks. And the crochet hooks.
What?
And the crochet.
Oh, the crochet hooks. My wife points out we also use them with the crochet hooks. We use them with a bunch of things. Now, one of the things they've come out with in the last few years that's really useful for pen turners is these blind systems. What these are is this part here is rubber. And as you draw this back, it expands on the inside of the pen and captures it. It lets you make pens that don't have through holes, that have a blind end on one end. And that can give you some appeal and some breakout. One of the problems you see, you walk into a craft show and there's a guy with 50, 60 pens, and he's made them all the same basic styles. There's none of them with wooden end caps, in other words. They're all made very similarly, and people look at them and go, oh, I've seen those at this show and this show and that show. Try and make yourself break out just a little bit. This one will work for any 7 or 8 millimeter pen or pencil, and it's sold by Penn State. This one is an all-metal one that I don't recommend. It was made by a company that's now actually gone out of business because it broke the first time I used it. And this set is a set for making the Barron style pens, which are a nice high-end fountain pen, making them end cap or end free. Now, we all see Dan's.
That Prodan mandrel comes in 2 different diameters now.
Okay, John says it comes in 2 different diameters, and that brings something up I forgot to mention. Keep the RPMs down. Don't try it at 3,000 RPMs without some end support. Same thing I said about earlier about pieces going woogie, 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 and then breaking. They go woogie, 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 and then break. Now, Mr. Ackerman sells these nice drives that are tapped 3/8/16 for his box making system. That works very, very well. But you know what else these work on? Bottle top stoppers. They're the exact size for most of the bottle top stoppers, threaded the same even. So besides being able to put this on and make a box, you can put it on and make a bottle stopper. But let's have a little variation here. This is an offset chuck system from Penn State. You see here the offsets? That means you can turn one side and have a different diameter than the other side. But it comes with something else. This is again 3/8/16. But what this does is there's an indexing system inside here. And if I pull this apart, I can rotate it and go to other positions. So I can put a small box, again keeping the RPMs down, or a bottle top, and I can turn a 3-sided, 4-sided, or 6-sided box or bottle topper. So it isn't just round, it's actually well, not really triangular, but 3 arcs. I call it turned on 4 axes because there's the center axis that makes it round, and then the 3 offset axes or 4 offset axes that make it more than round. The advantage this system has, and it's also available from their pen kit, is these snap-on indexes are exactly repeatable. If I turn to 3 here, and then I turn to 1 here, and then I turn back to 3 here, it's exactly at 3. It's not, well, I think that's pretty close. It's exactly at 3. Because anytime you're doing offset, wobble, you need to be exactly in the same place every time, or it's not going to look exactly like you want it to. Penn State has another add-on for this, and this one allows a variable amount of offset. I don't use this because of that variability offset. I want exactly the same thing every time I set it up and use it. Because I don't want to say, well, that's almost what I wanted. I want it to say, that's exactly what I wanted.
So how many times did you use that before you figured that out?
Once. Excuse me for a second. Now let's talk about something from Sorby. Here it is. Now, this one is not exactly repeatable. In fact, once set up and changed, it's never going to go back. This is an offset wobble chuck. And if I put it on here and start swinging, you'll see that this time I'm cutting here. I'm offset cutting. This Sorby is really good for stuff you want to make that's going to be artistic and non-repeatable. Hey, I'm an engineer. But the wonderful thing about this Sorby system is it drops and locks right into a standard 2-inch number 2 chuck system. And all you have to do to adjust it is loosen these 2 set screws, spin this to whatever setting you want to make it, whatever offset. You can't really see too well through the video camera, but the line through this block is skewed. So as I rotate this, the wood becomes off-center. This is how you see those turnings sometimes where looks like there's a whole bunch of axes. Well, they've used something like this and turned it other than completely round. And this can be very fun. I've had a lot of fun doing, I did a goblet with this on about 6 different axes, and it really looked weird. It wasn't remotely usable, but it really looked weird. Bing, 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 bing. Bing, bing, bing. Oh. Oh, yeah. This is a Vicmark oval device, and it just happens to be set up to go exactly on this lathe because this is the lathe I have at home. What this does is this doesn't turn round bowls. This turns oval bowls. And it does it through a cam follower system. Every time I turn the drive shaft twice, the output shaft turns once, but it also moves back and forth once. So what that does is your blank is moving like this, besides turning. And what that means is, depending on how you have the gears and cams set up on the inside, you can have a very eccentric bowl or a nearly round bowl. These are real fun to figure out how to use. One of the things that you learn real quickly is you have to cut in exactly the same place every time or you don't get repeatable results. Because if I'm cutting here and I change my angle of my tool just a tiny bit, I'm cutting in a completely different place and I'm getting a completely different oval. That's why they recommend scraping. Now, if you were at the Oregon Symposium 2 years ago, Dale Larson did a demo on using this and making offset platters. And it was really a lot of fun to watch and really got me inspired and wanted me to get back to using this, but it still hasn't happened yet. But he had a way of reversing them so he could have an oval foot. Yes. This was about $2,000 when I bought it 10 years ago. It's about $2,500 today. You remember me talking about how Dale Larson taught me to do this? Well, he did one of these oval. And that's how he reverses them. I don't want to. I don't have it all the way in, and it's got a little slop here. Because this might be a 64th of an inch different in height than mine, because it's not spinning on easily. Oh, no. When I have something that costs more than either of our lathes, I treat it very gently. That actually pretty much concludes the presentation part. I didn't hand anything around. Does anybody want me to hand anything out for you to look at? Or you can just come up and talk to me. I'll talk until my wife says we have to go home. Vern wanted to know if I've used any of these things on my treadle lathe, which is my foot-powered lathe, and the answer is no. Do you think I'm crazy?
So, hold on a minute, guys. Hold on. So, I know a lot of you don't use Facebook. So, I want to tell you about a book that will be very helpful if you want to follow up on some of this